see, most churches today, most Protestant churches, at least of the conservative brand, have a very interesting idea about Bible prophecy. They teach that God has two mutually exclusive peoples. The first people of God are the literal Jews. In other words, literal Israel. The second group that belongs to God, or the second people that God has, is the Christian church. And they believe that God has two totally different plans for literal Israel and for the church. They actually believe that the church is going to be raptured to heaven 7 years before the glorious coming of Jesus. And then after the spiritual people of God are raptured to heaven, then God will begin His plan again for the literal Jews. And some even teach that throughout eternity, God is going to have a heavenly people and He's going to have an earthly people. He's going to have two peoples, literal Israel and the Christian church. Now this has very strong implications for what we're going to study in our next lecture. Because we're going to notice that according to Scripture, there is only one seed, who is Jesus Christ. And there's only one seed's seed, which are His people from all ages. And I want you to notice in 10 specific points how the Bible teaches that God has only one Israel, one true people that are not geographically defined, but they're defined by their relationship to Jesus Christ. So we're going to study 10 points. The first point is that God has only one fold. Jesus has only one fold. Notice John chapter 10 and verse 16. John chapter 10 and verse 16. Jesus says, "And other sheep I have which are not of this fold." Who are those other sheep that are not of this fold? This fold is Israel. Jesus says, "I was not sent but to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." He says several times in the Gospels. So it says, He says, "And other sheep I have which are not of this fold. Them also I must" what? "I must bring, and they will hear my voice. And there will be two flocks and one shepherd." That's not what it says. He's going to bring the Gentiles, and there will be what? One flock and one shepherd. One people of God represented by sheep. Let's go to John chapter 11, verses 51 and 52. We're still showing that Jesus has only one fold, not two. He doesn't have literal Israel and the Christian church. He has one people, one fold, and there's one shepherd. John 11, verses 51 and 52. You remember that Caiaphas says it's necessary for one man to die and not that the nation disappear? Well, notice. Now this he did not say, Caiaphas did not say on his own authority, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation. Which nation is that? For literal Israel. That He would die for the nation, but now notice, and not for that nation only, but also that He would what? Gather together in one the children of God who were scattered abroad. How many folds and how many shepherds? One fold and one shepherd, and the fold is composed of Jews and Gentiles. Literal Israelites who accepted Jesus and spiritual Israelites. Now the second point that I would like us to notice is that God has only one Israel. And that Israel is not defined geographically. It's not defined ethnically. It's not defined genetically. It's defined relationally. In other words, for you to be Israel, you have to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. You must become the seed's seed in order to be true Israel.